Giant Dogman in the Canadian Tundra. Dear Scary Stories NYC, my friends from school and I encountered a once-in-a-lifetime sight when we had a reunion adventure way up north in the tundra. We saw a dogman so large that he was more than double the size of the deer he was stalking. We started that adventure feeling the immortality of youth, but by the time we escaped with our lives, we all had a true sense of our own mortality and the fear of Dogman embedded deep within us. I don't think most Americans understand how unpopulated the northern half or 3/5 of Canada is. But here's one way to illustrate it for you. If you go to Google Maps and look at North America, then click on that little orange street view man in the lower right corner, it'll light up all the street views for the entire continent. Notice how when you move north of the United States, there are fewer and fewer places included in their system. The further north you go in Canada, the bigger a guess it is as to what you're going to encounter down on the planet below. I found myself up in that mysterious Canadian north back in 2008, and I'm really glad I went when I did. I was there with my insane buddies from school, and that was the last time we were all physically in one place, too. We were looking for adventure and whatever came our way, but mostly, we were finding snow. By the way, I would like to admit that a running joke throughout this trip was that we were there in northern Canada to locate and capture a Yeti. We meant it as a joke. We'd say it to pretty Canadian women we met in bars. I don't think most of us ever thought about cryptids in a serious way before that trip, but I know we all consider it a serious subject now. One of our friends in our group is of native ancestry and in fact had relatives in Lutselk'e. Obviously, he was the main reason we were up there in the tundra in the first place, since he could show us stuff that you'd never get to see on a standard tour. Let's call him Guido since it means guide in Spanish, and he was ours for the duration. By the way, in real life, Guido does not speak Spanish. He comes from Canada. Now you see all this here on the map that looks like water? I'm going to click on this Google Street View and we'll see what we see. Where did the lake go? It went down under all the ice and snow that we're snowmobiling around on top of. That's where the lake went. Guido took us out here on the snow, and this was where we all unexpectedly saw the Dogman. So the plan for that day was for us to snowmobile out, enjoy the view from the edge of nowhere, then snowmobile back. We had been considering hiking and camping out in the Canadian wilderness, and this snowmobile jaunt was intended partially to gauge whether that might be a good or bad idea to follow through on. If we got through this uninjured and seemed thirsty for more, we could go hiking. If this snowmobile adventure proved too taxing for us city boys, then at least we would learn our limit early. So it was later in the afternoon and we had stopped for a break to rest and rehydrate a little before getting back to Guido's family's place before it got too dark. This happened in the winter and the days were less than 12 hours long. It can vary wildly up there by season, with summer nights so short that it's supposed to be hard for some people to deal with psychologically. I know that for me, I wanted every bit of sunshine I could get while we were there. I don't think dawn came till almost 9 a.m. if I'm remembering it correctly. My wife points out that I always get distracted and talk about random things when it gets to the part of the story with the upright walking dog-headed human bear ape creature in it. That's because I'm a mature man, at least in years if not in temperament or demeanor. I would rather not be talking about characters from science fiction, even though I have no problem with you if that's what you like to talk about. I admit I used to hold prejudices against people who would see these creatures, not Dogman specifically, as I had never heard of Dogman, but, you know, Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, or whatever Rod Serling or Leonard Nimoy used to talk about on TV specials in the 20th century. I thought that people who claimed to see monsters were either looking for attention or else they were crazy. So every time I get to this part of the story, I know that a certain percentage of the audience listening thinks that I'm either cracked or that I'm making things up for some personal mental health reason. Don't worry though, I'm warming up and I'm getting to it. I'm not going to chicken out. We were resting and getting ready to head back. It was literally supposed to be a 1-minute break to regroup before returning to our starting point. And then, off in the distance, we saw some deer march out of some woods into a clearing in the snow. They were far enough away not to notice or hear us, but close enough that we could see them clearly against the white, snowy background, and we could all say, "Aww." We may have been there a little longer than we had originally intended because we were enjoying watching this charming scene. We watched as the deer emerged 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 of them. We started laying odds between ourselves as to whether there would be a number 6 when the trees parted, and the lot of us were stunned to see something more than half the height of those tall trees slip out sleekly and silently, and then slip into place at the end of the line of deer, which looked tiny in comparison. Seeing the absurd size difference, and seeing the creature walking in a nearly bipedal gait, although using one of his front arms or the other to balance on as he leaned forward to sniff the odor of the tiny deer in front of him. This was not an unimpressive sight. I felt my knees buckle, and I went from a standing position down to a kneeling one. It really did feel like something had gone wrong with the settings of reality. Like I needed to adjust the color settings on my old 1980s portable TV set. That creature was too large to be there, unless those deer were actually tiny. It made reality feel all warped and bendy, but not in a good way. One of my friends we can call William freaked out and started screaming and running randomly around on the snow. Soon he had created a situation where that Dogman was more interested in his caterwauling than it was with the deer standing in line in front of it. Speaking of the deer, they stopped their forward march and turned their heads to stare at our benighted comrade as he screamed and ran in circles. Guido shushed him and told us all to be quiet, but William wasn't listening to anyone. He was too busy shrieking and crying. I admit, he made it harder for the rest of us to think straight. He went straight to panicking and giving up. Meanwhile, one by one, the deer each noticed the immense Dogman standing to their rear and hopped on out of that scene until there was really only the big Mighty Joe Young-sized canine that walked like an upright ape, and me and my buddies. As shocked as we were, when you're being eyed by something like that Dogman, your system releases some adrenaline and slaps you awake. Then the rest is up to you what happens next. My buds and I all realized we needed to saddle up and get back to civilization, but our good friend William hadn't finished his flip out. He ran off into a patch of woods, and what happened next still gives me nightmares. That huge, dog-headed behemoth ran an ape-like three-pointed run, seeming to move more quickly each second, diving into the same woods we had seen William run into. We figured he was a goner. We knew there was nothing we could do about it. William had made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. Nobody in my group are heroes, and they weren't back then either. When the Dogman went into those trees after William, we jumped on our snowmobiles and got out of there at top speed. Sometimes people lecture me that I had a responsibility to look after William, but why was it okay for William to draw attention to us, and put us all in danger. It was a situation between the deer and the Dogman, and we were just observing it until William started screaming and making it all about himself. When the rest of us were back in safety, and after we'd been able to calm each other down a bit, we realized we needed to launch a search for William. While we were still discussing the technical details of doing just such a thing, one of the locals brought a very shaken up but silent version of our freaked out friend into our common area. We were happy to see William safe, but he seemed too stunned to express much emotion. His clothing was intact, and he didn't seem overtly injured in any way, so the only question was if he had been psychologically damaged by any of this. William walked into his room and emerged a few minutes later with his suitcase packed. The next thing I knew, he had left the state, and that was the end of that. He's never spoken to any of us except Guido ever since then, even though the rest of us have all remained in contact to this day. Only Guido has ever gotten to hear William's side of the story, and he's sworn to secrecy about it. I don't think William will ever reveal to any of us what happened in secret between him and the giant Dogman in the Canadian Tundra. Sandra Freeman likes to hear the Dogman screaming. And we like that she likes that we like what she likes, or something like that. In exchange for helping us keep online in these dire times, Sandra gets all our perks, including our secret uncensored scary Dogman stories far too wild to run on this channel. Thanks to Sandra Freeman, we've got a second story tonight. It's another video coming out about 7 or 8, and Sandra Freeman is the executive producer of that one too. I can't remember if we're calling that one Dogman Thinks He Owns My Lake, or maybe My Entire Village Are Werewolves. Which title do you think is better? Well, you can decide after you hear the story itself, and that should be online tonight at 7 p.m. New York City time on most of these scary story stations from coast to coast. So, we hope to see you again later. And in the meantime, here is our old friend Henry Lee Dogman to explain what other living souls cannot. Henry Lee. Thanks for watching till the end. If you liked what you saw, please consider clicking like on the video or sharing it with your friends and family that you think might also be interested. If you would like to see more of our work, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon next to the subscribe button so that YouTube will alert you when we put out a new video. To become a channel member and gain access to our special perks, you can click that join link under each of our videos. Another option is to join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. You can join for as little as 99 cents on YouTube or $1.50 at peterbernard.com, and that gains you access to our weekly secret uncensored episodes. If you'd like to see our 21 hours of archives of uncensored Dogman stories, then please join at the $3 level or above. To get to watch our shows in advance of the public, please join at our $10 level. That gets you all the perks. If you join our channel memberships, you need to check our community page here on YouTube in order to get the links to the secret videos and other perks. If you're in the PayPal subscribers club, Peter will email you all the news and links himself. Once joining the PayPal club, which is Peter's homemade club, please give him a chance to see that you've joined and to compose you a personal welcome email, as none of that is automated. But whichever you join, we'll name you an executive producer for the next available episode. Do you have a scary experience that you'd like to share with us? You can email us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or call our Scary Stories voicemail hotline at 804-LA-SCARY. That's 804-537-2279. It's a Google voicemail box, so that means it keeps cutting off after every 3 minutes. If your story is longer than that, please keep calling back and we can piece it together on our end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
more scary stories.